Hello everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about R8ing characters, specifically what criteria you need to look at when you're deciding who to R8 or even if you should bother considering R8 someone. And in my mind there are 5 categories that we're going to look at. I'm going to go through them one by one, and I hope you enjoy, hope you learned something. Now the first category, and I'm trying to go over these in order of priority. The highest priority is Attacker Galactic Legends. Why attackers and not the others? Well, it's about mastery, and I'll try to dive into it as much as I can, but also they benefit the most from the stats that you get from R8. And I'm going to go to swigga.gg in a little bit to talk about that. But basically, the higher relics you get, you're getting kind of a blanket stat boost that any type of character gets, but then you're also getting mastery stat boosts, and that depends on the character. Most Galactic Legend, 5 out of the 8 Galactic Legends are attackers, and 4 of those are agility attackers. Agility attackers get crit chance, crit damage, and damage, so it is all focused on the damage. For Rey, the crit chance, crit damage isn't necessarily as important just as the damage, but you still want a lot of damage. Lord Vader is a strength attacker and gets accuracy sucks, but damage and defense penetration, which becomes more and more valuable the higher collective defenses get. Like the more relic levels that come out, defense penetration starts to look better, and at a point you already have 100% crit chance, so you don't really care about that. Another big, huge reason you want to R8 your Galactic Legends is because they all share the Galactic Legend ability where they're getting 10% extra max health and max protection per relic amplifier level. That is huge. That's just, I don't even know. It's just a big deal. Like any relic level does it, but 8 is just the cherry on top. But as far as mastery, the mastery gain is actually a little bit higher going to R8 than other relic levels. And also, Galactic Legends almost uniquely manipulate their own mastery. They ramp it, they stack it. JML is kind of an exception there, but all these characters have ways to stack their mastery very high. And the more mastery you have to start with, the higher that ramp is. So if it says you gain 100% mastery, you'd be getting on Lord Vader this 85 number. It's a complex equation, but just the more mastery, the better. And let's look at the specific increases from Relic 7 to 8, 8 to 9, and others. So here I am on swigga.gg looking at Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and his stats. And this is the best way to look at it because it doesn't have mods accounted for or anything like that. So at Relic 7, Kylo has 8,282 damage, and he also has 60 mastery. Those are the two we're going to focus on. Go to Relic 8, goes up to 8,922, so it's almost an increase of 700. It's a huge deal after you factor in mods. It's like 1,000. And his mastery went from 60 to 75. Now that is not always how it goes. So at Relic 6, we go from 7,773 and 50 to at 7, 82, 82. So about 500 increase and an increase of 10 for mastery. So R8 is a bigger increase on both. And those are key statistics for Attacker Galactic Legends like Supreme Lord Kylo and all the others we showed. However, Relic 9 is not quite as beneficial, and that's why, like, if you are tight on high-end Relic materials, you don't necessarily need to push Relic 9, but Relic 8 is a huge deal. See, Mastery only went up by 10, going from 8 to 9 for Supreme Lord Kylo, and the damage only went up by a little over 200. So it's not even as much of an increase as, you know, Relic 6 to 7. Like, it's just, for some reason, they nerfed the... Well, not for some reason. They felt like attackers were benefiting the most from relics to the exclusion of all others, and then they made Relic 9 favorite tanks. He does get a little extra protection at Relic 9. Like, normally, protection doesn't go up with Relic abilities unless you're a tank. But everyone gets a protection boost at R9. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a lecture on the relic tiers. Not all relic tiers are created equal. If you go from 4 to 5, you're getting plus 400, 5 to 6. You start getting closer to that 500 number. So yeah, not all relics are created equal, and Relic 8 is amazing for attacker GLs. The next category we have is strong attackers, and the rationale is similar to Galactic Legends, except they don't have the Galactic Legend ability, and they're not really manipulating their own mastery. They might have their mastery manipulated when they're on a specific team. You have General Skywalker's on JMK team, Malicos or Maul under Lord Vader. Starkiller usually stays on his own, but I think he might give a little bit of mastery. But yeah, it's about the damage. These guys really care about their damage output. They're heavy hitters, and that's why they're focused on. You might not have all these characters, or any of them for that matter. Malicos and Maul as conquest units are really hard to get. Luke and General Skywalker have a long list of requirements to get, and then Starkiller has a few relics you need for him. And they're not the only ones in this category. You could consider like Darth Vader, or even like Dash Rendar. I mean, Dash Rendar's not an attacker, but he fits in another category too. And it's more simple than the Galactic Legend. It's just more damage. And then for R9, I have a lot of these R9, but you don't need the focus just because of what we talked about with the actual relic differences. R9 is not the biggest deal for attackers. And that is our second category. The next reason you might want to R8 a character is that they are a key pilot, and not all of these are R8 for me. I think it's a little bit more of a luxury for some, but General Kenobi, if you didn't go for JMK, you weren't forced to get him to R8, but it's still a pretty good idea. I knew a player back in the old Grand Arena system, they had never lost, or they almost never lost. They were one of those players that just sandbagged their GP, didn't upgrade things over Gear 13 if they didn't have to, and they said the one match they ever lost was because they didn't have an R8 GK. Now that was way back when the Negotiator was the best fleet in the game, but it is still really strong and it can help you beat other Negotiators if your fleet is swords with them. The more relics on your GK, the better. Iden Versio, pretty much the best single ship in the game. Benefits more from relics, more dodge chance, more damage, all that. And she's also a raid character too. And then some bounty hunters that I recently took just R7, but they're key members on the Executor fleet. Sith Marauder, a good tank on the Sith Empire fleet. And these are ones that you're not forced to do R8. There's more important crew members that to be R8, but you're forced to, like Piet, Radis, and Darth Revan are forced to unlock their ship. So by the time you get them, you're not really making the decision anymore. And this isn't an exhaustive list. There's Beskar Mandos on there, Jedi Knight Anakin maybe. It just depends, and it's up to you. It depends on if your fleet is getting the job done for you and it's never lost in this certain circumstance, then maybe you don't need to worry about it. But if there are edge cases where you barely lost, then you might want to consider R8 on one of those pilots. Next, we got raid requirements, and I already showed Iden. She is a multi-factor decision because I put her to R8 because I was thinking, okay, her ship is great, she's needed in the raid, and she's a decent character, although I don't use her as much on land. So it was mainly the fleet and the raid thing. And all these characters are characters that I took to R8 just because of raids. Skiff Landa for the old crate raid, and the whole cartel team was the only team I did it for. But then for this raid, it was actually a little bit more friendly. You only needed 2 team members to actually make a viable team. So I just went ahead and bumped up these guys. Rex and Moff Gideon actually run together, but Drogon has the right abilities. Chewbacca doesn't have really the right abilities, but he's an awesome character. So I try to think in multiple facets. I don't want to R8 someone just because they're a raid character and they're a bad character. Like, you're not going to see me relic aiding Akbar or any Ewoks just because of the raid. So be judicious, but if they're an awesome character and they're going to help you out in the raid at R8, because your output in the raid is really, really skyrockets once you get to R8. You go from a max score of, I think, 1.8 million to 2.7 million. So it's a 50% increase. It's huge. So that's a good reason. Right now we're late in the life cycle of the Forest Moon, or the Endor raid. So I wouldn't sink any for that, but keep a lookout for future raids. And the last category is the least fun one. It's when you're forced for the requirements for some Galactic Legend or something else like Executor. Here are the ones that I never would have R8'd if I wasn't forced to. Padme, Boba Fett, Count Dooku, Cassian, and ARC Trooper. You don't need to do this until they're the last thing holding you up from actually unlocking a GL, which at that point, the R8 is basically giving you the GL in a way. So, not a fun category. It pretty much speaks for itself. But yeah, that is the last one. So yeah, that's it for this one, everybody. I'm sure plenty of people are saying, okay, what about TB? I'm not going to tell people that are going to a video for advice to R8 characters just for TV, the combat missions are pretty low. I mean, if your guild wants you to do something for platoons, that's a better reason than to get a whole team ready for a combat mission. Special missions are another consideration, but I didn't want to put that as a main focus, so there you have it. I didn't forget it, I just didn't want to include it. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Like I said, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. See you later.